If you've noticed Afro House evolving into more hypnotic loops and borrowing the cinematic tension of melodic techno, you're hearing exactly what Magnifik music is all about. Samm Ajna's sound is all about the fusion of melodic techno with Afro House, resulting into a new sound that is really blowing up lately. The combination of these genres is something that makes our tracks really groovy and danceable, but also gives them their own melodic, distinctive identity. This is the reason that these tracks are performing really well across streaming platforms, but also on dance floors around the globe. Magnifik itself began during the COVID period, when Samm Ajna first started experimenting with this type of sound, and at that time they really started to believe in the vision of this sound. However, they could not really find a label that believed in the music the same way they did. We can definitely call it a success because over the years it has grown into one of the staples in Afro House, and last summer they even had their own hosting on Tomorrowland, so that's pretty huge. In this video I'm going to break down all different elements that are included in this style, and by the end of the video you will have a much better view on what really makes this sound so special. Without further ado, let's now dive straight into the video. So first of all, it's this simple saw plug, which is filtered down, layered with an atmosphere, already setting that kind of melodic mood into the track, and then a kick, and from here we're going to start off. Really punchy and deep kick, which is like almost similar to a kick that you could use in the melodic techno style. That's already a distinctive difference from the Afro House we used to know, which really used really soft kicks. These deep and punchy kicks really make sure that it has a lot of impact even on like big festival speakers. First of all, I want to set the groove by adding a tom. For that I'm using a tom sample from our pack Tantra, which sounds like this. Really deep and nice sounding tom. And now we're just going to find some kind of groove that sets the foundation for this whole track. Okay, let's just keep this tom on one note. And now we have a more acoustic tom that we can use to layer it on top of the actual more kind of low digital tom. I think this is a nice starting point. For the first tom, I'm adding an EQ that gets rid of some of the sub-frequencies. Just not all of it, as this will kind of also function a bit as the bass. However, in the mix we should be careful that it is not clashing with the bass line we're adding later on. You can always fix that in the mix later on. For now, I feel like this keeps some proper body in the sound. Then there is this really short simple delay set to 69 milliseconds with a low pass filter right here, and then just like 10% of wet level, just to add that slight sense of depth to the tom. Just makes it feel a bit more alive. And then on the bigger tom I added this high cut to kind of push it away in the mix a little bit more, and a really short reverb that adds some depth as well. So then together they will sound like this. And in the context of this loop right here, that will sound like this. Now we want to add an actual bass, and for that I'm using this bass called Adama, which is just really effective. Low subby saw bass with both oscillators from the Moog Matriarch, and oscillator A is pitched down 2 octaves while oscillator B is pitched down 1 octave, and it has some fine tuning, so that really creates a bit of that analog deep layered sound. And you can hear that if you would fully open it up, it's a pretty fat sound, but we're using it more as a kind of sub layer. But still, because it's such a fat sound, this will even resemble in the sub area of the sound, if you get what I mean with that. And then in the effects section, there's not too much special going on. A compressor, some tube distortion, and a distortion, but that's not turned on. Let's come up with a bass line. And often these kind of tracks follow a really typical bass line. So there's first a pretty fast switch in notes, and you can layer, for example, a chord on that, and then it stays on the same note for a while. So you give some room for the percussive elements, or you first let it stay on a note and then do it, but like the idea is the same. Like something like this could be a bass line. I think this would work better. As you can hear, there's still bass because it's just a very sustained bass, but it doesn't really have the impact anymore, so that leaves a lot of room for other elements. So I'm not really looking to spend too much time on this right now, since we can always change it when we feel like the chords that we're going to layer on it don't sound too good. But for now, I feel like this really does well with the loop we have already. Then for the FX on this bass, first of all a OTT to kind of make it a bit more crispy. Then a pretty hard cut on the high end to really maintain focus on the sub. And then this pretty hard sidechain on the low end of the bass. Because as you can see, we also use pretty hard and long kicks, so we really want them to leave space for each other. And with that, that sounds like this. Now let's add some kind of top synth that really kind of defines their sound, being a bit more melodic than the traditional Afro House. For it, I will use this organ-like synth, which is a combination of this sample in Serum together with two different wavetables. And there's not really much going on except of some fine-tune modulation and some cutoff modulation, but it's just a combination of these three different two wavetables and one sample that really give you that organ synthy kind of vibe which we want. Then some noise added to it as well. Then a filter, but it's opened up quite a lot. Then there's this chorus to add a bit of that vintage effect on it, and some slight tube distortion and some reverb. The envelope is pretty sustained and has quite some release. So that really is about it for the sound. First, let's just copy the bass notes into the chords right here. So let's try to come up with a nice progression. Let's then create an inversion here, like all the notes are a bit more in the same area, and that most of the time really like glues it together. But then we will keep that higher. I think this has way more impact than what I came up with here. Let's copy this into a separate pattern. Create variations between it too. I do prefer to just copy this for now. And I wanted to make them a bit more in your face, so I added this boost in the high end, and then it sounds like this. And then just a simple low cut with like a really slight push in the high end. Then I want to layer it with another synth, which is a more vibrato synth and a bit distorted, as you can see right here. And it's two saw waves. The noise and the distortion combination makes it really kind of sounding analog and unstable, as well as this chaos LFO linked to the fine tuning. And this would just add some more body to the sound. So together that layer sounds like this. Next, I want to add some more kind of FX type of plug, which has this LFO right here linked to the chorus pitch, leading to a more kind of FX type of pitched plug. Essentially a really simple sound. A really short envelope right here that's linked to the MG-Low 18 filter. Then there is some soft saturation and delay and reverb. And this just works really well to fill up space in the background with some kind of groove again. Let's mute these and try to come up with something. I want it to be a bit of a higher element. And on the sound also a low kit, a boost in the high mids, and then here a bit of a duck in the high frequencies. Then next we're going to add another tom, which is more of a tonal tom, which is playing higher. And for that we have these laser toms in the Tantra pack. A little bit of distortion on it, as well as a bit of delay, really short again, just like we did for the previous tom. And some short reverb. And then let's try to see if we can come up with some kind of pattern. Let's see. Let's just do it like this. And then last but not least, I'm adding these cowbells with delay and reverb on it. On the offbeat, so on the place where you normally also place your hi-hat. Let's play around with the velocity a little bit right here. And then let's see for the other one. Then adding ambience and textures is what really takes this genre to the next level in terms of sounding organic and just sounding full in general. So that's why I'm adding some loops, and I will solo play them first of all. So really noisy and weird, also in a way organic loops. Then reinforced ambient sound, and this really noisy. Like by themselves you might think like, but then in the overall production they really add a lot. So let's also add the typical Magnifik whoop, which is from the pack as well, which sounds like this. And then last but not least, the heads, claves, shakers is what really finishes off a drop like this. These are all loops from the Tantra pack, which you can find in the link in the description. And we will also make a tutorial on how to create these kind of loops. But it's just too much to cover like all of this in a short form YouTube video. From here I can do the arrangement and show you the complete end result. So as you can see, here is what a full arrangement could look like, including some more FX right here. And that's basically all about gradually building up with the elements that we already had. So you really start just simple and atmospheric. These kind of organic impacts can also work really well to just fill up like empty spaces without being too in your face. And then here you start teasing the elements, such as the chords with a filter as well as the toms. As you can hear in the background, the plug that we added is opening up. So that's this automation, and it's a really simple automation. It's just gradually evolving the sound, which keeps it really interesting while it's just a really simple saw plug. Then here you have the build up again. This is basically the case for a lot of elements. Filtering, but not in a too rushed way. So you make it feel like really organic and building up to something, as well as reverb automations. For the build-up, then, as in most Afro House tracks, the kick is filtered, but then towards the drop, the bass comes in slowly. So it kind of sucks you back into the overall drop. With like basically the whole climax of, for example, the plug being fully opened up is here. And then the drop hits, and that is essentially the same as we came up with. We will be covering in a new video, as I told you, how to make the different loops. And I will also try to make a video focused especially on arrangement, because for some people this kind of format might feel rushed and they don't really understand it. So I think it will be good to really contribute a full video for it. For now, I want to play you guys what the end result sounds like, and I'm really happy with it. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. All the sounds in the video are from our new Tantra pack, which you can check out in the link in the description, which contains presets, projects, a lot of loops and much more. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, make sure to leave a comment down below, and I see you guys in the next video.